of Galatians. Where is that one? Galatians chapter 4. It's an important passage for us to have a look at. Let's have a look at Galatians chapter 4 for a second. Galatians 4. Now, this is really interesting because this talks about the inheritance. Galatians chapter 4, it says, "Tell me, you who want to be under the law." Now, when we talk about under the law, it means the coerced covenant. You need to know, Paul is a Pharisee trained by Pharisees, and he's using Pharisaical concepts. We have this concept of the coerced covenant. That God offered the Torah to all the nations of the world. They all said no. And the last nation that God offered it to was Israel. And he literally threatened them with death if they did not accept it. He held the mountain over them. He towered the mountain over them. And they trembled and say, "We hear and obey. We accept it." And this is called the coerced covenant. Coerced and coercion, it's not a very good way of making people come to accept something. They are under the law. They are under the mountain of the law, in fact. The mountain is held above them. And they were coerced into it. And you who want to be under the law, in other words, you who want to be in the coerced covenant, do you not know, do you not understand what the law says? You see, there is a better covenant than the coerced covenant. The coerced covenant is how it all begins. It all starts with the coerced covenant, but it's got to go further than that. It's got to go into the Brit Hadashah, the new covenant of Jeremiah, when no one will have to turn to his brother or sister and tell them, "Hey, you're not keeping the law, you're not doing it properly, do it properly." Because they will be so in love with the law, they'll be studying it themselves and they'll be doing it themselves. They won't have to be told what to do. They'll know what to do. When that time comes, then those people have become under the law of life. They have been liberated. They are in the grace of the law rather than under the law. Okay? They are sort of almost over the law. They're floating in love over the law rather than being under the fear of the law. Okay? So there's a different sort of condition which comes, the new covenant. And he's talking to people here who don't really understand the new covenant, just like I'm teaching you guys still. So many of you guys don't really understand the new covenant. You think the new covenant is the New Testament, and you don't really even understand what that's about. So you get people who say, "Oh yes, we have to do as Jesus says, or we're all going to burn in hell." This is the same as being under the law. This is a coerced covenant. In fact, that's the way that most people evangelize. They try to evangelize by saying, "You have to believe in Jesus, otherwise you're going to burn in hell forever." Well, that's not the new covenant. That's not the Brit Hadashah. That is literally coercion. That's being under the law. Okay, you've changed the law into the New Testament, but still it's being under it. You don't want to be under the law. You want to be floating in love over it. That's how you want to be. And that's only going to happen when you are having a deep and loving relationship with your Creator through his name and the angel of his name. So he's saying to those people, he's trying to talk to them about the new covenant, and they don't understand. They don't get it. And they're saying, which laws should I study? Which book shall I buy? Where are the instructions for me how to do everything so that I don't go to hell? No. Tell me, you who want to be under the law, do you not understand what the law says? For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, one by the slave woman and the other by the free woman. His son by the slave woman was born according to the flesh, but his son by the free woman was born through the promise. Now here is another really deep teaching, for those of you who are not aware. A really deep teaching is that basically both children, okay, could have been, whether it was the first child Ishmael or the second child Isaac, both of them had the chance to be the one of promise. But in order to make it easy for us to understand, one of them was shown to be a failed promise, and the other one was shown to be a fulfilled promise. But this could have been Ishmael himself. It doesn't matter which child you choose. He's born to Hagar. Hagar is the one who physically gives birth. She's the one who physically gives birth to both Ishmael and Isaac, by the way. But because when she was pregnant and was chosen to be the surrogate mother to Sarah's children, okay, when she was chosen to do that, the first time she got pregnant, she went she got filled with pride and haughty, and she went off on her own way. And the Lord told her, go back and submit to your promise. You've made a contract. Go and submit to this. Keep your promise. Because she broke the promise the first time, that child could not be the child of promise. That child was no longer worthy to be the child of promise. So the promise comes again when the angels come to, that is the Lord, Hashem himself comes to visit Abraham under the tree of Mamre. He says, this time next year you'll have a child. Again, Sarah laughs because it's, how am I going to have a child? He says, you're going to have a child. And she has the child this time again through Hagar. But this time Hagar is not disobedient. She is fully submissive. She is perfectly obedient to the promise. And the child is a child of promise, born through the promise, and therefore born to Sarah. Even if it's physically from Hagar, it's literally and legally born to Sarah. So he's a child of promise. So now we too are all children of Hagar. In fact, all of us are children of Hagar. We're all Hagarim. God says this very clearly in the Bible. He says, you are Gerim. You are Gerim you're going to be Gerim with me, and you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Therefore, you shall not hate the Ger who was amongst you. You are all Noahites with me. And that's why you shouldn't hate the Noahide amongst you, because you were Noahites in the land of Egypt, and you are still Noahites with me. Tenants. He calls them tenants. So we're all children of Hagar. We're all Noahites, all of us. But some of us are children of promise, born through the promise, kept by the promise. Our parents have kept the promise faithfully. We're born in the promise, brought up in the promise. Therefore, we are no longer children of earth, but we are children of heaven instead, sons of God instead. Now, he says these things serve as illustrations, for the women represent two covenants. One covenant is from Mount Sinai and bears children into servitude. It says slavery here, but it means servitude. This is Hagar, which they've translated here as Hagar. We never use the translations. You do have to get to your Hebrew roots. If you don't get to your Hebrew roots, you're not going to understand a thing. So kiss the Hebrew roots, love the Hebrew roots, because that's how you get grafted in. The wild olive branch becomes part of the cultivated olive tree, and you become both wild olive and cultivated olive, two in one. You become two witnesses if you kiss your Hebrew roots. If you hate your Hebrew roots, you're never going to get the answers. So Mount Sinai bears children into servitude. Why? Because that's the coerced covenant. Mount Sinai was held over you. You were threatened with the mountain being thrown on top of you, and you submit and say, we hear and obey. We obey. You are a servant of God. This is the Noahide. This is Hagar. Now, Hagar stands for Mount Sinai in Arabia and corresponds to the present-day Jerusalem, because she is in servitude with her children. This means the Jerusalem below. But the Jerusalem above is free, and she is our mother. The Jerusalem above is Sarah. The Jerusalem below is Hagar. Obeying the law because you're afraid of breaking the law, this is being a ger. This is being a Noahide, and there are plenty of Jews out there who are still Noahides, of course, in the way they behave. They keep the law not because they love it, because they're afraid of breaking it. They're afraid of what will happen if they break it. They're afraid of the sin which might come upon them if they break it, the punishment they might get. They're under the law of sin and death. They are under the law of sin and death. So too, there are plenty of Christians who are only good because they're afraid of going to hell. They are equally under the law of sin and death. Equally. Anybody who is only doing good because they're afraid of being punished is under the law of sin and death. But if you do good because you love doing good, and you're not afraid of any punishment, just you want to do good, you're not afraid of death, you're not afraid of punishment, but you want to do good, then you are under the law of life, or rather you are over the law of life. You are in the law of life. You are floating freely in the law of life. Okay? And that means that you are a child of promise. And the children of promise will be born from above. They will be born of their heavenly mother, the heavenly Jerusalem above, who is the free woman. And she is our mother. So here is the promise, the inheritance. Yes, we're all Hagarian. But if we can go past simply just being Noahites who are doing the law because we know that it's wrong not to do the law, if we can go past that and do the law because we love the law, really, really love this law, and we want to do more of this law, it's fantastic, then we are children of promise instead. We're not just children of bondage, children of the contract, the deal. We're children of promise. Okay? And that's why it says, rejoice, O barren woman. Barren, she can't bear children. Who bears no children? Sarah bore no children. Break forth and cry aloud, you who have never travailed. You have never, Sarah never went through childbirth. Because more are the children of the desolate woman, the woman who did not have any children, than of her who has a husband. The pun here is like you tend to think of Sarah as the one who has a husband, but it's actually Hagar is the one who has the husband because she has the children with him. The children are the proof that the two have become one flesh. And what God has joined together, when the two have become one flesh, let no one cleave asunder. She is the wife of Abraham. 2 wives. He has 2 wives. The servant and the free. She who was the wife, proven by the genetic union between her and her husband in her children. The two have become one flesh and should not be divorced. She has less children than the one who never travailed. Also means this. Mount Sinai, to whom we are all born, the law, will in the end have less children than the heavenly Jerusalem above, the spiritual Jerusalem. So then we, he says, now you, brothers, like Isaac, are children of promise. Isaac was a child of promise. Yes, physically born to Hagar, but actually the child of the barren woman who had never travailed. By promise. And we can be that too. At that time, however, the son born by the flesh persecuted the son born by the spirit. And it's the same now. The one who is in you yourself, the spiritual you, is always slapped down by the physical you. The physical you has got its own agenda and the things it needs to get along with. And the spiritual you is slapped down and told to stop dreaming, stop wasting time. Okay? But what does the scripture say? Expel the slave woman and her son, for the slave woman's son will never share in the inheritance with the free woman's son. Therefore, brothers, we are not children of the slave woman, but of the free woman. Meaning, you have to put away the old person, and you have to be a child of promise, focused on the inheritance, focused on being born from above, born of the new Jerusalem, our abode, the promise which is coming. And it took 99 years, 100 years before Abraham saw that promise fulfilled. And it's going to be the same with us. It's going to be a long time before we see that promise fulfilled, but we must never give up hope and lose sight of that. We must never let the world around us pull us down and stop us from thinking about what is coming. But what is coming is the new Jerusalem. The new Jerusalem is coming. So let's have a little reminder about the new Jerusalem from the book of Revelations, chapter 21. And he carried me away in the spirit to a mountain